Hey there, guys and gal. This is your host, the Mad Bag, back with another Starcraft 2 video. This time, not a first-person video, not a video of me playing and the entire match from only my perspective. This time I'm going to commentate a replay of a game I played recently. So, as per usual, let's take a look at the two people who you will see in this game. First and foremost, myself. Pay no attention to these team leagues. I have a friend that plays on this account that normally plays in my living room with me on my spare computer, but occasionally logs in himself and plays the team leagues. I only play 1 vs 1 on this computer, and I normally, I'm sorry, not computer, on this account, and I normally race pick Terran. However, sometimes I do random as well, just to get a little bit of Zerg in there. And to take a look at the placement of this account, it is in Platinum, and roughly middle. Rank doesn't mean so much as just seeing the league. And my opponent is Mr. TT0, a Protoss player, quite more highly ranked than me. Platinum, rank 2. A lot more games played than me. That's really common, though, with as few games as I've played in this last season. And just take a look at him on the ladder. I guess the ladder is not incredibly important. Just seeing his total wins and his points. A lot more points than I have. That means my MMR is probably quite a bit higher than my rank dictates. So let's jump into the replay and get this bad boy rolling. You'll note, first and foremost, that I have hidden the replay timer. Since you guys aren't, since you didn't just now see me play this game, this time through the replay, not only are we going to hide the time and not mention when it ends or how it ends or who wins, we're also not going to speed through any parts of it. We're going to stay pretty calm throughout, and I'm going to try to do this like a regular cast. I will warn you right now that I don't do this too often. I more often than not play a game first person and record it then, and then commentate it later. Looks like I'm being a little aware of cheese potential. I did see Protoss coming into this, and looking around the inside of your base never hurts. If I were to go over there to the inside of my base and see a probe chilling, say right here, huge indicator. And honestly, he probably wouldn't be chilling. By the time that guy was going through there, he probably would have been already dropping a pylon. So far everything looks pretty standard from Mr. TT0 here. I wonder if he is an aspiring member of TT Esports. That would be cool. That would be cool. Given that he's a Platinum, I think he's got some work to do, but anybody can make it. Anybody with the right determination, I should say with the right 6 to 8 hours a day to play to become professional. Still, I think anybody with the right determination, with the right amount of skill, build up over time playing, could potentially make it. Could potentially go big, make it on a team. I aspire to do that myself someday. Maybe not necessarily make it on a team, but I would definitely like to hit Masters, maybe right around the time Heart of the Swarm comes out. Maybe I will start my Masters quest when Heart of the Swarm comes out, and I would like to stream, at least. Maybe just continue to do videos, but do them from the Master perspective. From the Master! So far this looks pretty usual. It looked like it was a 13 gate, continuously boosting probes. It might have been a 14 or a 15 gas. Protoss players will toss the gas in somewhere around there. They delay it just a touch to make sure their minerals work out for everything. And then he's following right up with a cyber core. No kind of crazy 2 gate pressure, no chrono boosting zealots or anything maddening like that. And for me it's looking fairly similar too. Pretty common in Terran vs Protoss would be a gasless fast expand for the Terran, maybe a 1 racks variety, maybe a gas included 2 racks push into an expand, which is what you just so happen to see me doing here. So I have gotten the gas after a barracks, and I'm actually doing an odd variation of it. The most common is to get a reactor on your first barracks, so as to have a pretty high marine count, and then put a tech lab on your second barracks, and add concussive and add probably 2 marauders, and then do the push. You end up having 6 to 8 marines and 2 marauders and concussive shell, and it's a nice little push to do against a Protoss that will punish early economic focused builds, like a 1 gate expand or a 2 gate expand, or maybe a 1 gate robo expand. This 2 barracks pressure a lot of times will just win straight out if that happens. But I'm not going for the killing blow necessarily. I'm skewing it to an earlier pressure, but it's going to be a little bit weaker than if I would have started reactor first. I'm going to have fewer units, however I will have marauders with concussive shells on the field earlier. This push, most of the time, will come in before their warp gate research finishes. That was a little bit of mismicro on my part. I should not. I guess by the time I get up there and see the Stalker, the Marine's kind of dead anyway. You can't really run because the Stalker moves faster. But I probably shouldn't have sent just the Marine up there by himself. I should have waited until this first Marauder was there, because this Marauder and that Marine could have killed this Stalker without even losing the Marine. I could have pulled just him back as the Marauder remained engaged. And it looks like he's chrono boosting quite well on his research, so I'm probably not going to get in here before it. A lot of times I can be waltzing up to his front, though. And it looks like my guys are getting a little confused here. I can be waltzing up to his front right around the 6-minute marker right before, which, unless he's really putting chrono boosts on this research, will get in before he gets this first warp-in cycle. And it looks like it's pretty close anyway. So right before this starts, let's take a look at a couple things. So worker count, I would say I'm ahead. I'm actually 3 workers behind, but mules, they give you about 6 workers worth. So I would say I'm ahead on workers. And army count, we're really similar. However, I've got a critical tech, this concussive shell, that should let me do a lot of damage to him. So I'm going to try to do some stop micro. Oof! Missed micro and shooting at the statue. That was really costly. That allowed him to get a lot of shots off on me that I was not getting off on him. Luckily, I've got reinforcements coming in. And they were timed perfectly counter to his reinforcement stream. Now he gets to warp in. However, it looks like this warp in might do the trick. I'm not sure I can continue to be aggressive. Of course, I don't know that yet. Now I see the units. I'm going to focus the Stalkers with the Marauders, and though that ends up working out pretty well, he still just barely has too much for me. He's pushing my stuff in. And he's got a scouting Stalker over here, verifying that I have expanded. That is probably a pretty relieving sight for him coming around here with this Stalker, because if he came up here with the Stalker and did not see an expansion here, it means I'm probably adding a 3rd and a 4th racks before the expansion, and I'm probably just going to have a huge reinforcement stream coming right in. He is adding the Robo down now. Let's flip back over to our production tab. We'll see that I am going out for the factory in the engineering bay. Looks like my gas probably won't be timed with this perfectly. I've just started stim. It's not an early stim, but that's not a late stim. I've seen later, I've seen earlier. Yeah, my gas is definitely not timed out for this. So I took the second one. I probably could have taken one of these third ones at my natural a lot faster. Let's get an idea of worker count again. Oof, the Protoss does not like to be close to the Terran on worker count. This is nasty. The Protoss wants to be 6 probes ahead for about every base that the Terran has, so he would really be doing well to be about 10 workers ahead or so. He's going to start Blink first. That's not too bad. It's pretty common. I don't like Blink first personally a whole lot against Terran, because it can allow you to do some cute maneuverability things, like pop up here and maybe pick off a tech lab or something, or any other add-on. However, in straight engagements, it gives a little bit of survivability to your army, but against the Terran forces, which have just as much range as you do as Protoss, arguably even more range than you do. Oh, what's that SCV doing? Against the Terran forces, Blink and cycling guys to the back to reuse their shield tends not to be as useful as Charge and a lot of Zealots to just catch my forces like a mitt. If you can have enough Zealots to get like on 2 or 3 sides of my forces, or if he can get me up against a wall, like right in here, and then get Zealots on 2 sides, then he can keep me from doing step micro. He can keep me from stepping away from him as I fire, and he can do a lot more damage that way. With Blink, he's more going for a tricky play. He's more thinking he's going to be counterattacking and not necessarily engaging me straight. Either that, or he's thinking he's going to sprint straight to Colossi, and he's going to be using Blink against my Vikings. That's one of the only times in Protoss versus Terran where you use Blink aggressively, where you blink forward into an army. You blink forward to take out Vikings. He does start the range immediately. I like to see that. What is that Hellion doing? Apparently I built a Hellion just because I had an idle factory. Hellions aren't bad. They can be good scouts, and bio, they don't receive any of the bio upgrades, and generally Terran goes bio against Protoss and Terran versus Protoss. The Hellion, though, if you can keep it on the back, can just add some nice damage to his Zealot lines as they pop out. It can be surprising how much just 100 minerals can really add to the damage going down on his forces. And I kind of expected him to go a more Zealot-heavy route, at least to begin with. You generally don't have to start getting the Stalker count up as Protoss in this matchup until you have already fielded Colossi, and you've already used them in a way that forces the Terran to start getting Vikings. And it looks like I'm setting up to get the Vikings and or medevacs right now. I'm getting a reactor on that starport, and it looks like, I think, yeah, I squeezed one medevac out before, just to do this push. So here's a nice, and I know I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to pause. This is a nice little timing for me. I actually just completed +1, and he also just completed +1, but I also just finished my combat shield. Actually, not just, I'm 1 second away from it. I'm about to finish my combat shield, and my stim is done. So with the medevac and basically all of my bio upgrades, at least the functionality ones like concussive shell, stim, and combat shield, are in effect for this push. So having all that stuff together, this makes a nice little critical timing for me. Now, it also ends up being a decent timing for him because he has a Colossi out, and he's got +1 range on that Colossi. Unfortunately, he didn't have range, and there you see it gets picked off. Colossi goes down very quickly, and I take a nice advantage over his forces. Looks like I might be able to do some damage here. I have a nice opportunity where I have a higher army count than him, much higher army count. And he's smart, he's going to have to pull probes. Now I'm really Marauder heavy, and Marauders don't kill probes very effectively. However, just the chance to get to kill some probes, I'll take it, even if Marauders aren't the only thing I have to use. So with the probes, he chases me off, and wow, that food deficit has a terrible indicator for the state of this match. He is behind me in workers, and that is not a good place to be. Army-wise, I'm still a little bit ahead of him, but he's stabilized. I wonder, it looks like I might continue to be aggressive. Notice that I don't have a medevac now, and I do have some troops that were stemmed throughout that last battle that never got to heal. So, okay, I'm getting more medevacs in it. That's good. You don't want to push with just bio, especially this late, especially when he can get something like a Colossi out. Ooh, and actually, I wasn't paying attention. I sniped his robotics facility. I'm sorry, his robotics support bay, which allows him to build Colossi. That's going to be huge. That denies him a tree of tech that he was relying on very heavily, and you see him up in the gateway count because he knows without that tech he's going to need a lot of gateway units to try to fight me. And that's kind of a rough position to be in as Protoss. I like how he's taking the third anyway. He knows he can't keep from taking that third. To stay in this game, he has to up his macro economy. And I'm doing the same. The third and a little bit more production. And, oh, that's interesting, a Thor. I kind of like to see that. I like to toss in a Thor or two with my bio forces because against some of the gateway units, Thors are really useful, and especially before he has charge, a Thor can be really powerful. Thors are also really easy to grab in the middle of a battle and tell to focus fire on a Colossi. Oh, here we go. He has got a lot of forces. Those gateways must have just kicked in. And holy crap, he did really good right there. Oh, man. But he did not account for the Marauders on the drop. It looks like I went pylon sniping, and it is super effective. I'm focus firing the Nexus. I'm not going to get it. It's going to be pretty close. That might set that Nexus up for a kill later. I've taken a lot of hit points off of it, and if I work fast enough, I might be able to get in there before the shields come back up. Oh no, the Templar Archives. Boy, this drop is just doing massive damage. And it gets out without a loss even. That is an ideal drop situation. He's going to rebuild the Twilight Council. I'm going to get the second cancel on it. Holy crap, that's clutch. And then I'm going to go pylon focusing some more. That was overcommittal. I probably should have just got the cancel on the Twilight and backed out. That was a pretty good move. Losing the units, it's not hugely detrimental, but it kind of sucked. Oh, so now the attrition is beginning to be evident. He is down on worker count, and he cannot quite macro as quickly and as hard. Ooh, I even supply blocked him with some of those pylon hits. And it looks like I'm preparing another drop. It looks like I'm going to do this one on the opposite side. I like to do that a lot whenever you're fighting Protoss. A lot of times when you drop over here the first time, the Protoss will start leaving parts of his army over here. He'll leave like 3 Zealots and a Stalker, or maybe even just like 3 Stalkers, and he'll use some Warp-ins. So if you switch it up and then come up here instead and still engage him in a place that requires his army be more central, then you can trick him. You can get him out of position. Kind of like this, although this isn't exactly what I was talking about. I am getting him out of position. And that's pretty nasty for me. Ooh, but I do have the drop going in, and that Nexus is weak. And I do have reinforcements coming in on this side, too. The Thor did a good bit of damage, however, he was up against Zealots. Zealots are pretty effective against Thors. Thors just can't kill them quick enough. Zealots kind of swarm them pretty easily. I do get the Nexus. And I also take this engagement. This is actually really close. I am somewhat surprised that he was able to put up as good of a fight right here as he was, because he's been in a really rough state for a while, and it looks like I stopped paying attention to this drop. That's quite alright. It did its damage. It took out a Nexus. He is continually in a rougher and rougher spot as my third goes up. Transfers happen. Production continues. It looks like I'm haphazardly slapping down depots wherever I can fit them. I should bring that medevac back into the fray. Looks like I need some consolidation of forces. I'm probably macroing, slapping out some various stuff. It looks like he's checking things out. He's trying to get a feel for exactly how good of a position I'm in. Smart to do, although he's in a position where the second you see this third, really, you see that it's up and running, and knowing that he hasn't really done anything to my base, he hasn't really, oof, it's a lot of workers. He hasn't really slowed me down at all. Ooh, yeah, and I'm getting cocky with the little advantage that I've got. Knowing that he hasn't slowed me down at all, seeing that third base, he knows he's really far behind. And he's playing defensively. Doesn't look like he's being too heavy on the probes, which might be a mistake, although it also might be futile to chrono boost out a lot of probes. So maybe it's not, you know, necessarily a fault. Maybe he's just trying to stay alive this whole time. And here I come for what appears to be the final push, because right now the army count is quite in my favor. A good 50 food up. He still gets some decent force fields. Gets a blink in, tries to focus the Thor. That's kind of nice. Stalkers wasting their time focusing a Thor. And he has to tap out. So another victory for me. Now, don't be fooled. I do occasionally, actually now that I say this, I don't think I ever have casted a loss. I'm not against casting losses. I just have the same trouble as any other YouTube caster. All my losses are just bad games. They're not good at all. There's not multiple pushes or anything. I do something stupid and die. So let's take a look at the scoreboard at the end of this game. Actually, yeah, APM's not really important at all, but I like flipping between them just to check things out. Let's take a look at the scoreboard. So this game turned out a little bit more obvious in scoreboard than did the last, and the last one I think I was actually technically behind barely in score, but still pulled it out, still won it. This one, it was kind of more of a war of attrition. It was kind of more engagement after engagement, just barely won, and a little bit of that drop. That drop actually did huge damage. That really set him on tilt. So I had a much higher resource collection rate and was spending my resources roughly as well as he was. That's telltale in the number of workers. Well, in the fact that we were equal in workers anyway. Not that I had more workers than him. I did in the end. But the beginning is really where the advantage started. It's where it began. Build order, not so important. You guys pretty much saw all of that. The army value, biggest thing to see here is that for the most part I was ahead of him. Funny enough, in this little early pressure that I did, he actually had a slightly higher army than me the whole time, because, I don't know, maybe I mistimed things. He did do a 3-gate expand, whereas I did a 2 racks expand, so essentially I was doing pressure with 1 less production facility than he was. But I had that critical technology of the concussive shell that allowed me to do more damage than I should have been able to do. After that point, once I got the expansion out a little bit faster than him, and this is where you'll see, oh yeah, bam, this is the transfer, and a couple mules to my natural. Boom, my income hits 2 base. And then with muling, it gets, this must be 3rd base. No, maybe this is. I think, let's see, 910 seconds. I'm not real sure. I want to say that this is where the 3rd base occurred, but I'm not totally certain. It may have been in here and I just didn't saturate it real well. Because this drops back down and because that wasn't due to me losing SCBs, that makes me think this is mule oriented. This is me just kind of muling poorly and it having peaks and valleys, whereas it should be pretty constant. But you can see that the little bits of worker advantage that I had from the early game let me just keep an army advantage over him throughout and eventually push and kill him, even losing an engagement or 2 while doing some damaging drops. So there you have it. I hope you guys have enjoyed my game. I hope you enjoy all the other content that you're getting from Horizon Esports. If you would like to subscribe to my channel, my name currently on YouTube is Madbag Gamer. It is likely that that will change to indicate my affiliation with esports, but as of with Horizon Esports. But as of right now, it's still just Madbag Gamer. So look me up if you like. And I've got some other StarCraft 2 stuff on the channel, although it is mostly Skyrim focused. And thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later.